This little movie is about how to teach a Phase 2 course with an overview of the SLOs. So you should not see any more problems in Phase 2 classes with the SLOs not aligning directly to the module or task that you're grading. Every Phase 2 course has been painstakingly combed through to be sure that each SLO is in its proper module and not in any other modules. Every SLO's got a homework assignment or discussion board that measures back to it, and every SLO tests exactly one PLO. It will not test more than one PLO. What part do the CYUs play in all of this? Well, we do have incremental module learning outcomes that scaffold up to teach the module SLOs. So think of the module SLOs as the big takeaways that we want the students to have from the class. And the module learning outcomes inside each module are the small increments of knowledge that lead up to that big takeaway item for the student. Each SLO is going to be represented in one and only one module. There will be no more bleed over with SLOs in multiple modules. And there will not be any bleed over with SLOs that do not have an assessment task that tests back directly to that SLO. So when you're grading, you must pick a box. It'll color code for you and the student. You can see that this particular instructor did not select a box, although they did grade the work. Furthermore, here's an SLO that asks the student to graphically illustrate the factors, and the instructor said that SLO 2 was not applicable to the assignment and gave a grade of 30 out of 30. I went in and actually took a look at this student, and the student did not do any graphical illustrations. I know up here because this tells me that this particular SLO 2, asking about price equilibrium, as described right here inside the proficiency descriptors, does it in terms of ICC4, which is critical thinking. It also lines up to the program learning outcome of critical thinking. The ICC3 is measured in graphical illustration. That's a quantitative reasoning ICC. And so when we ask the student to graphically illustrate, we are asking them to demonstrate that they have achieved quantitative reasoning with this particular SLO and this particular task inside the assignment. You see that the proficiency descriptors are actually written differently. One that measures to quantitative reasoning and one that measures to critical thinking. In 2015, we're measuring critical thinking across the entire university. So then just be aware that the program learning outcomes and institutional core competencies are color-coded, and you will be seeing some things in the future that brings this more to the student's view. So how did I know that it was graded incorrectly? This is the report that I pull on the institutional core competencies, and I know which SLOs map to which core competency. So when I saw over here that the student had been graded, but there was nothing in the box to tell me whether they met expectations or exceed expectations, I knew something was wrong. Why is there no assessment data in the report? So I knew that there was an error. So I happen to know that in Econ 151, which is the previous class, critical thinking is measured by SLO 2 and SLO 6 in the homework for Module 2 and the homework for Module 6. How do I know that? Because we've got a map. It was developed by the SME and assessment when the course was revised for Phase 2. How does the instructor know? There are two ways that you know. First of all, the proficiency descriptor is going to describe the homework task in terms of achieving the program learning outcome, in this case, critical thinking. And then also the ICC and the PLO show directly in the grading rubric. Now on the previous screen, I know that SLO 3 is a quantitative reasoning SLO, so I will be going in and manually deleting that. Currently, the report pulls everything, all the SLOs that are Module 2. So I have to manually delete SLO 3, which is for quantitative reasoning, not for critical thinking. So what next? I opened the student's assignment, found the information in slide 1. I will manually correct the assessment report, but what should the instructor have done? First of all, if there is an SLO, there is a task assigned directly to it, either in the homework or in the discussion board. And the CYU may also have a task, but the CYU could also have some more minor module learning outcomes that will scaffold up to the major module outcome that we are expecting. Secondly, if there is an SLO, it is associated with one PLO and only one PLO associated with it. So go look for what you need in the course. If this isn't making sense to you, then there are materials inside the course that'll help you figure it out. First of all, you can go to the instructor resources. You can see here that they are at the top of the page. Click on instructor resources. Click here to view the Econ 151 instructor guide. And I want to let you know that the Phase 2 instructor resources are much more helpful than the Phase 1 instructor resources. You're going to see a whole lot less of the response that says students' answers will vary. Even if the students' answers do vary because we're looking for authentic assessments and authentic assignments, it's still going to be provided with some main points that the student should be addressing. So please check those instructor resources. The second thing you can do is take a look and see what the instructions were to the student. So if you click open right here on the student's page, the Module 2 homework, this is what you would see, that the student gets direct instructions to graphically illustrate the impact of each of the following. So they have to have a graph for each of the following in order to do the quantitative reasoning portion of the assignment. Note that they might have done extremely well on the critical thinking part of the assignment. They may actually know about all of this, but if they cannot graph it, then it is the second part, the quantitative reasoning, that they show weakened skills on. So a correctly graded assessment looks like this. You're going to actually see the color coding in the box pop up. The grade is still actually able to be adjusted based on the student's work. The PLO and the ICC, so you have first the ICC that's being measured, second you have the PLO that's being measured, and third you have the SLO, the student learning outcome associated directly with this task. The student learning outcome has specific criteria for two purposes. The purposes are to grade and assess the criteria that tie directly to the PLO and the ICC, and it is written that way inside the proficiency descriptor. Then the specific task that the student has to do in this homework or in this discussion board is also addressed in the proficiency descriptor. Below this dark blue line are the super SLOs. These are across the curriculum and they still tie to the ICCs and PLOs, but that may not be visible to you. So what about these super SLOs? Well, you saw the one for APA citation on the previous slide. These are the ones that are built inside this course. We're looking at the student's ability to write in standard American English, use correct citation. The weighting of these will be approximately 20% of the assignment. And we also have specific super SLOs that will measure back for oral presentations and will measure for solving problems, both discrete problems like 1 and 1 is 2, or non-discrete problems like write a code to make this computer program do something. So this student did particularly well, and thus this highest quartile was selected for them over on the right hand side. Even though the student did extremely well and basically got 100 on this particular assignment, the instructor did leave written feedback because no matter how well the student does, they want to feel that contact with you, and it's important to tell them when they do well. So how do you select the correct assessment, and what's the difference between that and grading? Note that when you select an assessment, a guideline for the grade is going to pop up. And at this, it would appear that does not meet would be 25%, meets would be 50%, meets marginally would be 50%, meets expectations is 75%, and exceeds expectations is 100%. But the instructor still has control over the grading, and we expect you to use that because we're doing two different things here. The assessment tells me whether the student achieved critical thinking and in what quartile did they fall. Now, this student, and I'm going to show you on the next screen, actually did a pretty good job. Well, they did a fair job on the task that was assigned to them, defining their product and evaluating the process involved in the development of a product. So they did develop their product, they talked about their product. What they didn't do is think about it very well in terms of critical thinking. So I had to give them a C on the assignment. But in terms of critical thinking and how they did with the rest of the class in critical thinking, I really think they're in the bottom half of our students. They did not think critically about this task very well, even though they put everything that was required in the assignment. So they didn't fail the assignment, but they just didn't do a very good job about thinking critically. So in this case, the grade was actually adjusted upwards above the 50% that would have automatically kind of popped up. So you still need to adjust the grade. Did they do the task? And then the quartile that we select here on the assessment is how well did they do it in terms of the program learning outcome. So remember these things. Each SLO can only be contained in one module. Each SLO is only going to be linked to one PLO. Each SLO must have a discussion board or homework task associated with it. No SLOs will be in a Phase 2 course if they don't meet the above criteria. Therefore, all the SLOs should have the rubric marked and selected. Thank you. I really hope that this helps you understand both grading SLOs using the new rubrics and also helps you understand how to revise courses in Phase 2 for the SLOs. Of course, if you have any questions, please contact me, dsykes@allied.edu, or call me at 570-939-0487. Thanks.